So in this segment, we're going to be talking about ministers rejecting an attempt to curb political influence over the allocation of levelling up funds. So we spoke about previously how some of the levelling up funding is not going to the deprived areas that need it. It's going to wealthy Tory shires. So proposal to curb the ministerial influence over the £4.8 billion worth of levelling up funds after claims of possible bias in the favour of Tory seats. This is pork barrel politics at its finest. Analysis has shown more than half of the 100 deprived areas of the country have not yet benefited from the fund. Gee, I wonder why. The awards are under fresh scrutiny after former Chancellor Sunak told an audience in Tunbridge Wells, Kent, that he changed the funding formula to divert money from deprived urban areas and to go into, Tory shires. And the fact is, that was whilst he was, a junior minister, I think, in the Treasury. That's back possibly under the Cameron era or the Theresa May era. And so they're doing it again with the levelling up funding. And one of the reasons why we, had so much in EU kind of structural funds is because we had so many deprived areas pushed on by the Tories because of their austerity policies, but also because they changed the Labour formulas to take money out of deprived areas and give them to wealthy Tory shires. The government has now rejected a recommendation by the Commons Public Accounts Committee to hold back the identities of shortlisted bidders from ministers until the principles for allocating awards have been finalised. So I guess what they're saying is they want to know the final criteria for allocating the money before the constituencies can be announced, the actual areas, because otherwise ministers can say, oh, that's a Labour one, that's a Labour one, oh, that's a Tory one, like that. This makes sense, for the Public Accounts Committee to do this, but the ministers have said no, which is not a surprise at all. The selection process for the first round of bids was previously criticised by Starmer for looking like pork barrel politics, because it was, and it is. Officials say the Levelling Up Fund has fairly and transparently delivered vital investment across the country, yet they won't tell us the actual formulas that they used for this stuff. Not exactly. They have given some of the criteria they used, not all of it. Blackpool, the most deprived area in England, was turned down for levelling up funding in the first round. They did get some funding later on, but some of this money has gone to building a film studio project in Kent. Kent, a broadly wealthy area. Why do they need a film studio project? Some of the EU structural funds were maligned for going to weird kind of projects and theatres and stuff, but what use is a film studio project in Kent? And a proposal to improve traffic junction in the Bedfordshire area. That seems fine, but why does it need levelling up funding? Surely the local council can deal with that stuff. This weekend, Lisa Nandy, who I think is quite good at dealing with this stuff, the Shadow Levelling Up Secretary, called for an inquiry into why some of the poorest communities have so far missed out in levelling upwards. She said Sunak let the cat out of the bag when he boasted that he'd fixed the rules. Taxpayers' money should always be spent fairly and in areas of the most need, not for political gain. Especially because if you invest that money into the areas with most need, you can make a much bigger difference and also boost the economy more broadly, rather than giving it to wealthy Tory shires. The methodology for counting the Levelling Up awards faced criticism for not using deprivation levels to rank the areas for priority funding, which would make sense. The more depravity there is, the more funding they should get, but instead uses the unemployment rate and productivity data. But unemployment can be a skewed metric, because if you live in a wealthy area where only one person needs to work, the other person is going to be seen as unemployed, depending on which unemployment figures you actually look at. It's ridiculous. Productivity data, again, ridiculous. Along with the assessment of local transport and regeneration needs. That third one in yellow, that's fine. The other two, ridiculous ones to use. How's productivity got anything to do with levelling up in that context? Analysis by the Financial Times in March of last year found some of the most deprived areas in the country were classified as priority 2 in the ranking to distribute funding. I mean, it's just stupid. Especially when we know that people in work, need benefits money, need universal credit. It tells you that it's not down to unemployment solely. It's down to work not paying enough. An analysis published by the Centre of Inequality and Levelling Up at West London University revealed that 61 out of the 100 most deprived areas in England did not receive any funding. That's what I think the devolved nations, kind of devolved governments, do have say over how their levelling up money is spent. That's why you've got 61 out of 100 in England. I'm sure we'll see them do a much better job, seeing as you've got Drakeford, who's Labour, you've got Nicola Sturgeon, who's SNP, and in Northern Ireland they haven't sorted that stuff out yet because Stormont's still closed. But I'm assuming it'll be Michelle O'Neill. Successful bids in the first round of applications included one for £14.8 million from Ashford Borough Council for a new international film studios. What's this obsession with film studios? I don't get it. And commercial and residential developments, that's fine. Commercial, residential developments, fine. What's the obsession with film studios? I don't get it. There is a government spokesperson who said officials say Blackpool received 39.5 million from the Towns Fund, and 12 projects in the Northwest have already benefited from more than 230 million levelling up funds. Now, the Northwest is a huge area, and you can talk about 230 million pounds being a lot of money, but only 12 projects have been authorised up there. That seems wrong. We know the government are using this money for political reasons. It shouldn't be political at all. It should be done on need. That's how EU did the structural funds. It was based on need. And it's just shameful that the government have done this. And some of these areas, these very deprived areas, would be newly voting Tory constituencies, which the government just simply won't look after, because at the end of the day, the only thing the Tories really care about are their heartlands, because they're the ones that will remain loyal to the end, compared to newer areas like Hartlepool that may not be Tory forever. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.